Hi there, welcome to Mini Math Lessons with Karen, and today I am using the Classwiz, the fx991EX Plus, or just ES I think it is, and I wanted to show you how it works with functions in two different ways. So where you start with a function and then you can create a table of values, and then where you create a table of values and then you can use regression to find a function. Even though it's a scientific calculator, there's a lot of things you can do. And I'm also going to show you that you have the ability to actually see your functions because of the QR code, QR system, or whatever we're going to call it, that's built into the Casio Classwiz. So you'll see right here, there's this QR, and it creates a QR. And if you're just with the calculator and you don't have a computer, you can scan it on with your phone with an app and see the graph of the function or the table or whatever it might be. If you have a computer, which I am working on, I'm using the emulator software and then a computer, so I can actually click the QR code and show you the graph. So I am going to do that briefly because it's really easy to do once you've set up something. So I'm sharing two activities in this overview. One is just investigating functions. I've shared the links to these down in the description of the video. And this is investigating functions. It's a pretty short activity, but it's basically starting with the idea that you are trying to help students understand what functions are, right? So you can give them a function to start with. So over here in the Classwiz, if we go to the menu, this is an icon, as a lot of Casio's calculators are icon-based. So you'll see it actually has a lot of functionality, and we'll explore this more later, but you can do, matrices, vectors, statistics, distributions, and what we're interested right now is a table. So I'm gonna go to the icon that I'm interested in, hit the equal or enter sign, and now I can enter my function. So I'm just going to use the one that's right here. I could enter any function, but we're just going to enter the one that's here, 4x plus 11. So the 4, and to get the x, because it's a scientific calculator, it doesn't actually have the x or the variable button, but you'll see the x is right here in red, which means I hit the alpha button first, and then this backwards parentheses, however we want to describe it, and then plus 11. So entering this, and this is again the table icon, it asks for a second function. I'm not going to put a second function. So now I can set up where I want my table to start from. So maybe I want to start with 0 or -10 to 20. So we can change it to whatever we want. So I'm going to just say -10, and you hit enter, and then let's go up to 20, and we will step by one. That works out fine. Oh, I made a mistake. Let's go back to my error. Let me start the table here with 1. All right, there's my table. So here's my table of values, right? And so there I went from 1 to 20, so I can scroll down. And so the idea in this activity is you give them the function and have them figure out what is going on. What are these values? What is x? X is my input. And f of x was that function. So what did that function do to the values? And so they're kind of learning that a function takes your input and uses the operation, so we're multiplying by 4. So they're figuring out what a function is doing in this first section. And then in the second section of this activity, they are actually given different tables, and they have to try to figure out what is the pattern, what's happening to the input that gives me this output. Can I come up with the function? And then, so then what they do is, if we click all clear, it gets back, they enter the function they think it is, hit the table, and see if they can match these table values here. So it's kind of a, do you understand what functions are? Can you see the patterns in the table and go from a table to a function the way that you did? So that's this first one. But what I wanted to show you is, okay, so I have this table of values, and we've got the table, we've got the function. I want to show you what you can now do with the QR code. So here's the QR. It's yellow. I'm going to hit the shift and then option. And notice I get this QR kind of button up here, and I'm going to scroll this one down. I get one here when I'm on the emulator in the computer. I also get one over here. If you were in your classroom, you could use a scanner and see the graph on the phone or however you're going to do it. But since I'm on a computer, so if you were doing this with students, you could actually have this demo. I'm going to click the QR code, and it brings up, let me scroll it over here so you can see it. It brings up the function that I had in there and the graph of that function. And I can, move this around and show the graph of that function, and we can really kind of compare. And you can also, so I'm in here, this is just a graph of that function, and I can actually change my settings. I can change the minimum and the maximum and the y and the whatever, and show, so we could make the max only be 20 if that's all we want, right? And it's only going to show that much of it, right? So, or you can, I'm using my mouse to zoom in, zoom out, and change kind of the scale right there. So this is a linear function, so that's what it's showing. So that's a really nice feature of Classwiz, is the fact that you can actually add in a visual. Even though it's not a graphing calculator, you can actually see the graphs of some of the functions that you're doing. So let's move on. I'm going to hit all clear a couple times. That gets me back, and then we can go to the menu. This time I'm going to go into the second activity. This is, again, starting different. So now I'm going to start with a table and create the function from it. So we're going to be looking at the regressions that you're able to do. So this is now in the statistics menu because that's a statistical process. So I'm going to go up to my statistics, and I'm going to hit equal or enter, and I'm going to choose which form I want. So let's just say we want a linear a plus bx. Now I'm going to enter my table data. So this table data that's here, I might want to enter it by tens, instead of 1900, make it just be 0, 10, 20. So I'm not going to enter all of them just because it takes a while, but let's just enter maybe the first 3. And then, so entering table data is pretty easy. You enter the number, you hit equal, and it sets it and moves to the next. If I want to go into the next column, my arrow over and arrow up, and now I'm going to enter my numbers. And this is a nice little thing because I can show you how to use the scientific notation, because notice this is a very large number. It represents population. So I'm going 3,765,000. So if I want to enter that into my table, obviously it's going to take up a lot of room. So maybe I enter it as a scientific. So I'm going to do 3765339, choose the scientific notation button, and my exponent is 0 in this case, and notice it's 3.7 times 10 to the 6th power. It automatically will do that. So let's just do a couple more of these. So 4425083, hit the scientific notation button, put your exponent in, hit equals, and it will enter it in. And then let's do one more. And there we go. So obviously I could do all of them, but I'm just going to do that. So now that I have this, the next thing I want to do is exit out of that. I've entered my thing. It's looking for this, and I'm going to choose my options, and I want to do the regression. So I'm going to hit 3. And since I had chosen the type of regression I wanted ahead of time, here's my regression. So now what they can do is take this regression and write an equation from. So they started with the table of values. Now we're going to write a regression, and notice that my R value here is a pretty good fit. And they can then enter that as a function and then use the QR code to see it. If I wanted to, I could actually change the type. So let's change the type of, so I'm going to hit 1. And instead of a plus bx, why don't we see if a quadratic might fit? So I chose the type. Now I hit option, and this time we're going to do regression. And notice there is my regression, so slightly different. So this is a really nice thing. So it's showing functions in 2 different ways, starting with the function, looking at a table of values, using the table of values to help you find a function. That's sort of what these activities are about. And then you can see the functions that you finally do end up with by using the QR codes. So have fun exploring.